Hello, 20 years ago this October, John Denver died, all too young, in a terrible accident as his plane crashed into the Pacific Ocean. I was one of his millions of fans who shed a tear and found yet another expression of the day the music died. John Denver's music took me through adolescence with its joys and challenges. His music provided bonding music around the campfire, as well as sweet-sounding missives to young ladies who caught my fancy, especially, well, I won't say her name, but I think she knows who she is. I share this brief bio as full disclosure because I wish to share some important ideas, particularly theological ideas related to all things Denver. Although I need to issue a certain kind of warning, let me assure you that I come to praise Denver, not to bury him. There is much to praise about John Denver, the man, and much to contemplate about his lyrics. Whenever John Denver as a topic of conversation arises, there seems to arise two very opposing camps, those who really like him and those who are negative about him. Something like when you smell spoiled milk or when you taste wine that's too sweet. But although I count myself among the former, I find myself a rare subgroup of Denverites who are cautious about some of the philosophical and theological insights his lyrics generate. I'm grateful for an article written by Reverend Todd Eckloff called John Denver and Creation Spirituality. Reverend Eckloff offers high praise to this very popular 70s and 80s musician. Eckloff points out the great love for nature and the simple joys that can be found in life in John Denver's music. In this regard, I couldn't agree more. As a Catholic priest who has endeavored to learn and to teach the great wisdom found within Catholic theology, I'm glad to promote John Denver's music, since it does indeed lift our souls to life's simple joys and can inspire us to love the earth and seas as well they should be. I especially think the younger generation of today will do well to investigate the beautiful melodies and interesting lyrics of his songs. If you might agree with me that our social moral compass is profoundly broken today, you might see that a deeper appreciation of the beauty of nature is a helpful remedy to the challenges and pains that a dysfunctional society brings with it. Love and appreciation of nature is part of the remedy because it can lead to an appreciation of natural law, which has been a foundation for the whole of Christian moral life. Great saints and theologians like St. Francis of Assisi, Julian of Norwich, Meister Eckhart, and even Thomas Aquinas all have written and sung about the beauty of nature. Denver, in his autobiography, declares that his song, A Boy from the Country, was actually written directly as a tribute to St. Francis of Assisi. I could go on and on about this pro-nature, mountain and eagle-loving mystique that weaves its way through many of his songs, but I need to share a few thoughts about John Denver and what you might call the ideology and especially the theology that can sprout from his songs and his life. That word I just used, theology, might surprise you, huh? You might say, what does theology have to do with Rocky Mountain High or Calypso? Well, Reverend Eckloff makes a most insightful connection between John Denver's spirituality and a certain former Catholic priest by the name of Matthew Fox. Matthew Fox gave seminars on creation spirituality, pointing out how our faith in God is in complete harmony with our love for nature. He quoted Meister Eckhart, "Every creature is a word of God and a book about God." He quoted St. Francis, "All praise be yours, my Lord, through sister moon and stars. All praise be yours, my Lord, through brother wind and air. All praise be yours, Lord." And who cannot see the similarity between Denver's "The children and the flowers are my sisters and my brothers," and the beautiful canticle of Daniel, "Let the earth bless the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. Mountains and hills bless the Lord." Reverend Todd says it well when he says, John Denver's love affair with creation expresses itself in the vast majority of his songs, and it is seeing creation through his eyes, feeling it through his heart, and hearing it in his songs that is his greatest legacy and undying gift to us. I wish to establish my deep agreement with not only John Denver and even Matthew Fox, as well as St. Francis and Eckhart, when they push us to love life and the natural world in which we find ourselves. I need this positive assessment of Denver because I need to issue a couple of critical thoughts. But my criticism is nothing like that of David Lang, a music writer who referred to Sunshine on My Shoulders as egregious, or my many Led Zeppelin fans who never tired of proclaiming Denver too saccharine. What needs to be appreciated is the bad theology that the former priest Matthew Fox developed in the spirit of John Denver. To put it simply, creation spirituality is a good place to start, but if not developed by a sincere inclusion of natural law, this theology leads us to hell rather than heaven. One way to illustrate this critical side of creation spirituality is to point out something everyone who has ever enjoyed a long hike or camping trip in our beautiful national parks has learned. That is, be prepared. Every park ranger is well trained in the dangers that one can find in the wild. One needs to take seriously the ranger's warnings. Proper clothing, a must. Bug spray, a must. Bear spray, mostly a must. First aid kit, a must. Map, sunscreen, water, and knowledge of seasonal weather conditions, all so necessary to truly enjoy nature's wonders. All these necessities make us realize that love of nature requires also a healthy fear of nature. Since the powers of nature show no mercy, nature can kill us just as much as she can delight us. Therefore, what Reverend Eckloff says, Matthew Fox teaches, that creation spirituality doesn't accept the doctrine of original sin, or that the world is fallen, is like the novice tourist vacationer rejecting any of the ranger's warnings and cautions. Embracing a theology of original innocence without accepting original sin is like the camper who sets off on a 7-day hike across the Continental Divide with only a t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops, and maybe some Doritos. This is why Pope John Paul II had to declare Father Fox could not teach Catholic theology. He wasn't kicked out of the priesthood. He left because he couldn't accept the doctrine of original sin. The Pope, of course, never denounced any of John Denver's songs because he never sold his songs as Catholic theology. But whether or not they are sold as theology, a naive spirituality that does grow out of this spirituality can lead us on a very dangerous path. On the other hand, if you have an overly cautious fear of nature, a fear that paralyzes, you need to get out and smell the pines on a long walk up a mountain trail. Denver came on the American scene when so many needed to be pushed out of their comfort zones, pushed all the way to the top of the Rocky Mountains. There one finds a high that isn't brought about by drugs, but by an incredible appreciation of what God says about his nature, his creation. It is good. And to anticipate the many criticisms about John Denver by virtue of his later troubled life, we do well to remember what he said in a late interview. A journalist questioned him about the contradiction in his life between the importance of living in an environmentally friendly life and his habit of flying around the world in his Learjet. Learjets are notoriously bad for the environment because of their large carbon footprint. In a response that would later echo a certain Al Gore, John Denver said, "I don't have to be a martyr to deliver the message." Denver does deserve praise for getting the environmental movement off the ground, but just as every good pilot knows, taking off is only part of a successful flight. Every movement has heroes that get the movement off the ground, but every movement needs heroes to guide that movement through challenges and turbulent storms that its founders couldn't even see at the beginning. Allow me to share what I believe is John Denver's best legacy. It is not primarily his leadership in the environmental movement. It lies more in his contribution in saving us from a disease we might call negativism, blame, and sense of hopelessness. It is necessary to recall the 70s and the turmoil of the sexual revolution, the Vietnam War, and the violence on campuses surrounding civil rights, etc. All the protest songs made it very difficult to be optimistic. In order to be popular, you had to be negative. It was so hard to find a voice that was uplifting and joyful. John Denver's was one. Matthew is a song that stands out in this way. I vividly recall seeing pictures of the Nebraska dust storm victims in my grade school textbooks, excuse me, and thinking there could be no worse fate than to live on a farm in Nebraska. The beautiful song Matthew and its story completely wiped out that negative view and replaced it with something beautiful, even though a tornado wiped out his farm and family. Like Reverend Todd points out, although Denver's lyrics mostly emphasize the environment, global justice, and his awe of nature, his, like most popular songs, are essentially love songs. Here I believe Reverend Todd gets it half right. His songs were essentially love songs, but he's mistaken to set the love of the universe ahead of a man's love for his wife and children. To ignore spouse and family at the expense of cleaning up oceans or preventing landfill disasters is to get things backwards. The love humans show within their families is not or should not be a kind of kindergarten for the greater love affair with the planet is just wrong. It is human love found in human relationships that is the greatest school for becoming a person who cares for the environment and the sadness of third world poverty. It is the unfortunate fate of our fallen human nature that causes us often to resort to global causes when our domestic causes have crumbled. Reverend Todd, quoting Matthew Fox, who quotes Mechthild of Magdeburg, a Catholic mystic, says, "The truly wise person kneels at the feet of every creature." This may be a great insight, if not misinterpreted. When Mechthild or any other mystic encourages us to kneel at the feet of all creatures, the most important part of this advice lies in the meaning of creatures. What this means is that when we get down on all fours and gaze at the marvels of a cricket, we are not adoring the cricket. Actually, sometimes the cricket needs to be smashed. For instance, when you find it in your bed. Spiritual wisdom is found when you contemplate the Creator behind the cricket. Creation can lead us to God, but only when creation teaches us the meaning of the word Creator, when creatures point beyond themselves. And unfortunately, every creature can be just as selfish as a spoiled child when all it says is, "Look at me, marvel at me, adore me." I'm Father Tom Koys. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Unlike Other Nations. God bless you.